What makes a grown man step into the road at night, risking his own life for someone else's? Sometimes one good deed is enough to rip the mask off an entire family. What happened next changed everything. You don't want to miss how it unfolds. The road was empty, just Peter's headlights catching the odd bottle, the lonely hedgehog making its way to the ditch. He always took this route home. 30 miles of night, 30 miles to think about how he'd ended up with no one waiting for him at home. He heard it before he saw it, a sharp, thin yelp, neither the cry of a child nor the shriek of brakes. He slowed down. Suddenly, as if in a movie, something pale darted across the headlights, a tiny bundle on 4 legs. 2 seconds. Someone in a battered sedan tossed a box out the window, not even slowing down. Peter didn't even have time to swear. Brakes screamed, the steering wheel jerked in his hands. His heart was pounding, his knuckles white on the wheel. He jumped out, not remembering how the door opened, how he ended up beside that miserable, trembling little thing. A puppy, golden, covered in sticky sauce, and something he didn't even want to guess at. Ears pressed back, eyes huge, terrified. Still alive? Peter whispered, nausea rising, not so much from the smell as from the thought. Someone did this on purpose. He wrapped the puppy in his old work jacket. The little heart was beating, skipping like an old coffee machine with something stuck inside. Already in the car, he called the emergency vet, the same one he'd taken his son to a year ago when the boy had found an injured pigeon. "You again," came the sleepy voice. "Don't ask." "Puppy." From the road. "Bring him." The puppy clung to life the way Peter used to cling to his place in the family. Funny, he thought suddenly of being an unplanned guest at his mother's house, always a bit of an outsider, always out of place. Peter looked at his phone, 1 in the morning. If anyone in the family saw this now, they'd say, again, trying to save everyone except himself. When they reached the clinic, Peter knew there was no just letting go. "Alive?" the vet asked, eyes on the puppy, not Peter. "For now." "The two of us, who knows?" Peter muttered, rubbing his eyes. It was a sleepless night. Dawn was just breaking, but in his head was only one question. Why? Why do people do this to creatures who can't fight back? If he saved the puppy, could he ever save himself? A simple act. But it was the beginning of the end for the life Peter thought he knew. And what happened next? You won't want to miss what comes next, it's just beginning. This is just the first circle of hell. Next comes more. Chapter 2 will show what happens when kindness meets indifference and why even the closest people can turn away when you need them most. What if your attempt to help someone else becomes another excuse for family to judge you? When those closest refuse to help, everything changes. This is the turning point. Everything you've waited for is right here. Stay to see how the hero stands his ground. Peter never liked coming home at dawn. Home had long since stopped feeling like home. He put down a bowl of water for the puppy, wrapped it in his softest flannel shirt, and finally turned on the light. Family photos lined the wall, his son, ex-wife, mother, visited once a month, his perfect on-paper sister, always cold in real life. The puppy fell asleep curled on an old blanket. Peter poured himself bitter black coffee, the kind he'd become. Within minutes, his phone vibrated, his mother. "Peter? Where have you been?" "I saw the news, something happened on the highway." He exhaled. "It's fine, Mom. I just got held up, stressing just." "Another one of your heroics? Can't you think about yourself for once?" Peter glanced at the sleeping puppy. Heroics? If only she knew how much he longed for a simple, "Good job, son." "Mom, I brought home a puppy. Someone threw him out on the highway right in front of me. I couldn't." "You're serious? Taking on things you can't handle again? You can't even get along with your son, and now a dog." He hung up. It would be funny if it wasn't so bitter. Peter sat at the window. The streets were waking up, the sun splashing through the dirty glass. Then his sister Martha appeared, immaculate as always, prosecutor's glare in place. "Saw Mom's chat, you're in another mess," she sniffed. "Hope it's not contagious." "No, just humanity," Peter muttered. "Don't worry, it's not hereditary." Martha rolled her eyes. "So keeping the puppy? Or playing savior again?" Peter clenched his fists. "Someone dumped him. What was I supposed to do? You've got your own problems." Have you even heard what's going on with your son? How many times do I have to hear that? For the first time in ages, Peter raised his voice. I didn't abandon him, you all did. Martha faltered, her icy tone slipping. We're just tired of picking up your pieces, she whispered. He knew that was a lie. It was always easier for them to look away. The puppy whimpered, sensing tension. Peter scooped him up. You've got a home now. Don't be scared, buddy. Just what you needed, Martha sighed, slamming the door. Peter hugged the puppy and allowed himself a moment of weakness, crying into the warm fur. And suddenly click. Why does every good thing he does become ammunition for their blame? Why does a family that preaches morality refuse compassion? The puppy licked his hand as if saying, we're in this together now. Peter stood. He didn't know what lay ahead, but he felt the old rules no longer applied. And this battered little puppy would be the start of a real change for Peter and maybe the whole family. But first, another unexpected blow. If you think this is rock bottom, wait. The real storm is coming. The next chapter will show betrayal can come from where you least expect. How far will a family go to protect a convenient lie? When your kindness becomes a threat to their secrets, you're suddenly the enemy in your own home. This time, things spin out of control, and it's about more than a puppy. The morning was surprisingly noisy. Peter had barely made oatmeal when there was a loud knock at the door. On the porch, his mother, Martha, and to his surprise, his ex-wife. His mother marched in first, like she still owned the place. Show me your find, she demanded, as if it were a sack of rotten potatoes, not a living creature. The puppy darted under the table, sensing trouble. You planning to keep that dog here? His ex, Eva, said with a forced smile. Maybe it's time you grew up, Peter? He stayed silent. He was tired of proving his childish kindness was all he had left that was real. Let's be honest, Martha began, sitting across. You always get into other people's problems, then expect applause. But life isn't a life raft you can toss to everyone. His mother added, poison in her tone. You didn't even ask anyone before deciding. Even your son would rather sleep over at friends than stay with you. Enough, Peter cut in, locking eyes with them. This isn't your dog or your house. I had a choice to walk away or to stay human. I chose the second. Eva sighed then, unexpectedly gentle. Peter, you need help. Not a shrink, human help. You can't save everyone until you save yourself. What if I don't want to be like you? He asked. What's so wrong with saving even one life? At that, Martha threw an envelope on the table. It's a summons. Your debts. Did you even know? Dreaming again. Peter looked at the papers. A knot formed inside him. His messy life had become grounds for a literal family trial. Just what I needed, he muttered, sitting down. Silence fell. The only sound was the puppy scratching at the door, begging for a life without fear or cold glances. I won't let you decide for everyone, his mother declared, slow and venomous. You won't wriggle out this time. Peter stared back and for the first time felt not guilt, but anger. What if I don't want to live by your rules anymore? What if I want to decide what matters to me? The puppy pressed against his leg as if understanding. Martha left, slamming the door. Do what you want, but when you fall, don't expect anyone to pick you up. Peter laughed through tears. Fine then. I'll pick myself up. After they left, he sat on the floor with the puppy. An old photo caught his eye, little Peter, his mother, father, Martha, and a golden puppy. He remembered that was his first friend, the one they later gave to a good home. The first time he felt betrayed. Don't worry, he told the puppy. I won't give you away. But as he tried to believe that, trouble was already brewing this time from a place he'd never expect. All the secrets are about to burst wide open. Next chapter, Peter learns who's really behind his problems and why that little puppy ended up on his road was no accident. Why do old secrets always find their way home? When you think you've hit bottom, fate throws another challenge, and you realize betrayal runs in the family. Everything shatters when the truth comes out. Get ready, a revelation is coming, one nobody expected. Peter spent the night sleepless. The puppy snored softly at his feet, as if reassuring him. But Peter's head spun. Why did it all go wrong again? Why did his own family feel like a wall, never any real support? Morning brought a persistent knock. On the porch stood a man Peter hadn't seen in years. His father. Gray, older, with heavy eyes, he looked more like a stranger. "Can I come in?" he asked. Peter let him in, not hiding his surprise or anger. His father hadn't set foot here since the divorce. "I heard, you're a hero again." The words were sharp, but his voice trembled. "You saved a puppy. Mom told me. I did what I had to." "You always were like that." His father sat heavily. "Think I didn't have chances to do differently?" Peter looked at him in a new way. How long since they'd spoken honestly? He couldn't recall. "You threw out my dog, too," Peter blurted, surprising himself. "To a good home, but really you just didn't want the hassle." His father hung his head. "I was scared. I never knew how to take responsibility. Easier to pretend nothing happened." The puppy carefully nudged his hand. His father managed a faint smile. "You're not like me, Peter. You're better." A phone call broke the silence. Peter put it on speaker. His lawyer. "Peter, you need to come to the station. Someone's reported the puppy missing. There's a claim of theft with your address listed." "What claim?" "We'll check the traffic cameras. If you're telling the truth, it'll show who set you up." His father raised his eyebrows. "Someone ratted you out?" Peter knew who it was. His mother. Or Martha. Or both. His father stood. "I'm coming with you. If they try to break you this time, they'll have to go through me." Driving to the station, Peter remembered childhood. Every mistake meant being stripped of little joys. In their family, you never talked about real problems. Any weakness was shameful. At the station, a grim officer met them. "We've received a report that you have a stolen puppy." Peter calmly put his hands on the table. "The puppy was thrown from a car. I saved him, now I'm the criminal." "We'll check the tapes," the officer sighed. "If you're telling the truth, it'll be clear who's at fault." At that moment, his mother walked in. Her eyes were full of hurt and something like satisfaction. "I won't let this boy mess things up again," she declared. "Maybe now he'll learn. There's no kindness without consequences." His father stepped forward, voice suddenly strong. "For the first time in 20 years, I'm not letting you break our son. Not this time." A flicker of fear and regret passed across his mother's face. For the first time, Peter realized he wasn't alone. But the question remained, why? Why would family stoop so low just to put him down? The puppy trembled at his feet, and that fear became Peter's point of no return. He looked at his mother. "Maybe now you'll tell me where your own fear comes from?" And in that moment, the whole truth came spilling out. "You think you know your family? It's just beginning." The next chapter, an exposure no one was ready for. The real cause of all the coldness comes to light. Sometimes the scariest thing is discovering why loved ones always wounded you with the same words. One night at the police station can reveal more than years of family talks. Get ready, the truth always costs more than you expect. Time in the station dragged, slow as syrup. Peter sat staring at nothing while his mother and father stood on opposite sides, two armies in a silent war squeezed into a stranger's room. The officer scribbled, clicking his pen, occasionally glancing at the puppy. Outside, summer raged. Inside, it was colder than January. "So, Mom," Peter said, voice heavy, "will you finally tell me what you were always afraid of? Or should I keep guessing?" His mother exhaled deeply. In her eyes flickered something ancient and deep. Even his father looked away. "You don't understand," she finally said, staring at the floor. "In our family, weakness was never allowed. A dog is a weakness. You were too kind. Like your grandfather." Peter suddenly remembered. As a child, he'd heard stories of a grandfather who helped too many strangers, always in debt, died having accomplished nothing. But no one said what really happened. "He died because of his kindness," she said quietly, reading his mind. "He helped other people's kids when he could have saved his own. And ended up alone." His father turned to her, and Peter saw tears in his eyes. "Maybe that's why we're all so cold," he said. "Maybe we're just scared of ending up lonely like him. Better to betray first than be left last." Martha appeared at the door, laughing hysterically. "So you're saying all our problems are some old fear?" Because of a dog? All Peter's failures are his own fault. The officer looked up. Let's stick to the facts. The puppy was dumped on the highway. Cameras confirm. There's no crime here. Peter nodded. That's all. But that doesn't lift 20 years of blame off my shoulders. His mother turned to the window, and for the first time, Peter saw her without the mask. She was a frightened, lost woman who'd always believed love was a weakness to be hidden. I always thought you'd leave too, she whispered. If I didn't make you strong, if I didn't teach you to be alone. Peter stood, picking up the puppy. I was alone. All this time. But now that's enough. His father handed him his jacket. Let's go home, son. Let's start with nobody kicking anyone out anymore. Peter nodded slowly. I don't want to be the last kind person in this family. Let this puppy remind us we all deserve a second chance. His mother said nothing. But as he left, he heard her whisper. Forgive me? I was just afraid. He paused at the door and looked back. We all fear something, Mom. But someone has to be the first to stop. The puppy licked his hand, blessing this new beginning. Peter stepped out, feeling a strange lightness, not a winner, not a savior, just someone who, for the first time in years, had chosen himself. And for the first time in ages, he wasn't afraid to move forward. It feels like the end, but every ending is a new beginning. The finale will show that real forgiveness is possible, even where no one expects it. Can you build something new on the ruins of old wounds? Sometimes real change starts not with words, but with a single gesture. What comes next you won't predict. This finale will turn everything you thought about forgiveness and family upside down. Peter stood on the police station porch, breathing in fresh morning air as if, for the first time in years, he could really breathe. His father walked quietly beside him, not imposing, but not disappearing as before. The puppy, sleepy and warm, clung to Peter's chest. They walked home slowly, every step a move toward something bigger than just a new chapter. At his door, Peter paused. He wanted to close his eyes, as if at this moment he could choose. Keep living the old way, or risk believing in change. His father cleared his throat. Don't be scared. It's scary when everything's the same. The new is always a little painful, but it's worth it. Peter nodded, unlocking the door. The house smelled of dampness and something familiar: childhood, lost and not quite gone. In the living room, Martha sat fiddling with an old plush toy, the one they used to hide treasures from their parents. Do you really think a dog can change everything? She asked, not hostile for the first time in years. Peter sat nearby, set the puppy down. I don't know. I just know if we don't change something now, we'll lose each other for good. Martha was silent for a long time. I'm tired of pretending to be strong, she whispered. Suddenly she cried quietly, almost soundlessly, but the tears were real. I always thought if I judged you, I'd be stronger. Now I see I was just afraid of being unwanted. For the first time, Peter saw her not as an enemy, but as a sister with whom he'd shared all those childhood secrets. All we have left is each other. If we can be honest, maybe we get a chance. His father sat down, creaking. It's not too late. Son, forgive me too. I spent my whole life pretending everything was fine. But it wasn't. At that moment, all the walls between them cracked. The puppy nuzzled Martha's hand, then crawled onto their father's lap. Maybe we all needed someone who can't hold a grudge, Peter grinned. At least one in this family. The sun flooded the room. For the first time in ages, the house felt truly warm. That evening, they had dinner together, no arguments, just being present. Peter realized, if someone had told him a year ago his family could share a meal in peace, he'd have laughed. The puppy was the center of attention. They fed him, scratched his ears, brainstormed names. They settled on the simple one, Chance. Because he's our chance to start over, Martha said. That night, Peter slept without guilt or bitterness. Before sleep, he stroked Chance's fur. Thank you, buddy. You came at the right time. The puppy nudged his chin as if to say it really will be different now. And for the first time, Peter believed forgiveness was possible, even where there had only been loneliness for so long. That's how a simple puppy changed a whole family. Sometimes you don't need a heroic deed to become human again. The most important thing is allowing yourself to begin anew. Don't miss your own chance. Can you forgive not just others, but yourself? When the silence at home finally stops being scary, it feels like life is giving everyone a second chance, even those who stopped believing. A week passed. Peter's house was almost unrecognizable. Chance, now playful and patient, tore around the rooms like he'd lived there forever. Peter no longer woke from nightmares, no more voices from the past, no more sighs like rusty nails in his chest. Martha started coming by just because to eat together, talk about nothing. The invisible barrier was gone. Their father fixed up the old shed not because he had to, but because there's always something to do at home, and that meant more than any advice. One rainy evening, Peter's mother appeared, holding a big basket of puppy toys and the old family album. I thought, maybe we could look through these together, she said, nervous for the first time. Martha and their father exchanged glances but said nothing. Peter sipped his tea and nodded. Sure, Mom. They spread out the photos. Some had dogs whose names were long forgotten, only remembered by phrases like, we gave him away, found him a home. Peter realized his childhood was like those faded photos, lots of blurry spots, but real moments too. His mother began telling stories, how their father once wanted a German shepherd but was afraid, how Martha used to sneak a kitten out at night so their mom wouldn't know. They listened, no arguing, no judging. Chance lay at Peter's feet, looking up with quiet trust. He was now part of a family that was finally learning to forgive not for mistakes, but for the fear of being themselves. At some point, his mother met his eyes. Thank you, for being stubborn. For not walking by. Peter grinned. Sometimes you have to be that way to change anything. Martha, unable to hold back, hugged him. We were always afraid of each other. Maybe now we just have to be afraid of losing this. Their father sighed. I'm strict sometimes, but you're my real life. Silence was no longer heavy. The house was full of light, despite the rain outside. Peter, for the first time, felt not like a savior or an outcast, just a family member. In a place where even the deepest crack can heal as long as there's one warm heart and a faithful puppy. As they all went to bed, Chance stayed in Peter's room. That's it, buddy, Peter whispered, scratching his ears. We earned this. And for the first time, Peter wasn't alone, even in the deepest night. Is this the end? Only if you don't believe in miracles. Sometimes all you need is not to look away. What will change in your life if one day you don't walk by? What if after forgiveness you find real acceptance? The most important changes aren't always visible, but they bring us closer. Don't go yet. There's one more truth revealed only by time. A few weeks later, Peter's house was at peace. Everyone had their own pursuits. His father in the garden, his mother writing for the local paper, Martha running her craft shop, and Peter finally enjoying morning coffee with Chance and quiet. Life wasn't a fairy tale, bills still came, work was still dull, little quarrels happened. But in the small things, the family learned to be themselves, no longer afraid of misunderstanding or judgment. Chance grew from a ball of fear into a confident, playful dog, a symbol of their new union. Peter was surprised to find himself looking at life with hope. If they turned things around once, maybe good changes were still possible. One morning the shelter called. We have a boy here who says your puppy might be his family's. Want to meet? Peter's heart sank. The old fear of losing Chance, of losing someone who'd become part of him, rose again. But he knew, running away from hard things meant becoming his old self. Let them come, Peter said, exhaling. A few hours later, a woman and a 10-year-old boy arrived. The boy's eyes were wide, golden with fear and hope. Chance saw them, froze, approached, sniffed the boy, licked his hand, and then returned to Peter. Is this really our puppy? The woman asked doubtfully. Peter knelt, petting Chance. If he chooses you, take him. Just please take care of him. The boy sat, hugged the dog, and burst into tears. Sorry, we didn't throw him out. My father, he left us and we couldn't find the puppy. I missed him so much. Peter felt an ache, old compassion, old loneliness. It's okay, he said softly. No one gets abandoned anymore. Chance nudged the boy, lingered a while, then settled at Peter's side, choosing the one who wouldn't walk by trouble. The woman smiled through tears. Thank you for everything. They left, and the house was filled with a new kind of quiet, one of gratitude. Peter understood, even the scariest fear can be overcome if someone once believed in you when you were weak. That evening, the whole family sat on the porch talking about life. Peter looked at the sunset and thought, maybe the most important thing is not walking by, even when it's scary. Chance rested his head on Peter's lap. His answer was clear.